Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our scenario comes to us from one of our favorite sites, the Reckoning of the Dead website. I have titled this scenario The Central Tree for the purposes of keeping the plot a secret. Its actual name can be seen in the credits at the end of the show. It was written by Matt Ryan and Noah Lloyd. This is a one-shot, so there is only this one episode. This is version 5. So, having gotten that out of the way, let's begin our journey into the darkness. The weather was gloomy. The sky was overcast. There was a good deal of dirty black snow lurking in the shady places, despite it being early spring. The date is April 6th, 1926, and spring break is almost over. A handful of faculty members from the Miskatonic Biology Department have been called to a meeting with the head of the department, Dr. Holmes Winside. Dr. Homer Winside, sorry. His office is large and comfortable, and his back wall is lined with shelving 7 stacks high, displaying all sorts of biological specimens preserved in formaldehyde, including a full-grown human heart. But I'm glad you've all come. Sorry to bother you on your vacation, but we have a little bit of a request that's been sent to us. How are you all this morning?
All good, Homer. You are the nucleus of our group. Little biology joke.
Oh, Dr. May. Too early.
So you may or may not be aware that Massachusetts is a rather oddly shaped rectangular sort of state, I should say Commonwealth, is more common for us to say. The geographical center of the state happens to be a little town called Rutland. It's some miles from Worcester, in the center of the state. And on the exact point of the center, there grows a large elm tree, which the town considers to be their landmark. Not much else out there. There's farmland and there's a few other small towns. I've been contacted by the mayor of Rutland, Mayor Don Merrick, and he has told me there is something wrong with their tree. He's quite concerned. It's, as I say, it's the only thing they've got going for them. He asked if I would send a team to investigate the tree and see what might be killing it. So if you can, put together your equipment and to drive out there. It's about a 3.5, 4-hour drive. Won't be able to go too fast. Part of the roads will be dirt roads once you leave Worcester. And I've told them that they will expect you sometime this afternoon or evening. They're willing to put you up for the night. They'll pay your expenses and feed you. They also said that they don't have a scientific facility anywhere nearby. However, their local high school does have science classes, and since they're out for the current vacation, you're welcome to use their science lab there as a headquarters.
I've certainly worked in worse conditions. A high school science lab is a step up from a lot of places.
But Patricia, you're probably familiar with the American elm.
I am.
Big tree, big healthy tree. Should be
exactly,
healthy.
And very little really can afflict them. Although I have been hearing some disturbing news coming out of Europe lately, but I'm hoping perhaps that this hasn't finally decided to cross the pond.
Let's
We
hope not.
certainly we certainly don't want Dutch elm disease.
The claim to fame is that the tree's about 150 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big one. Well, do you have any questions so that I could answer? I can't answer most questions, but otherwise,
Is it just that one tree that has problems, or are they seeing problems everywhere with the fauna and flora?
I don't know the answer to that, but that's the thing that they're concerned with, is that particular tree.
Well, there are certain things out there that if it's infecting the tree, it could be infecting other things around it, but I won't know until I see it.
And we don't know whether it's biological or chemical, or, you know, farmers sometimes dump chemicals near things, and could also be insects of some sort. Anyways, you'll find out when you're there.
Of course.
So shall we make like trees, lady and gentlemen? And
I'd like to pick up some of my equipment.
I'll be
from my
taking my own car
laboratory first.
if anyone besides Freddie would like to ride.
Once again, Freddie, too early for jokes. But
I'll
go with Dr. Lee.
I am nowhere near caffeinated enough for your humor, Dr. May. I'm going to go with Dr. Lee.
I will drive alone then.
One of you probably has a town car that could seat 8. So 5 and some luggage would work fine.
But I do love the idea that Freddie owns the town car and Dr. Lee just owns a coupe, that there's going to have to be people sitting on laps for avoiding bad jokes.
All right.
So
So
let's go 2 evils.
as far as equipment goes, I'm just going to say that anything in your particular field that you need that's portable, you have
Okay.
with you.
Easy.
Test kits, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly just test kits and ways to
guys.
test soil and things like that for me.
Do you all think we'll need firearms or sidearms? I mean, I have my left sidearm and my right sidearm, but still.
There's no reason to think that you would need any kind of
Up to me.
firearm.
I think
There
you
is
can
a
just tell them more jokes.
Have you ever
and
been
that's all
shot
the
at by a
protection
tree
we need.
before?
I'm sorry, was there a quick question there that I
Sorry, that was directed at Dr. May. I was wondering if you've ever been shot by a tree before, because I suspect if you continue to harass it with terrible jokes, I think you're the one that will be in issue.
Lucas.
Okay.
Let's get going.
Wonderful.
I need coffee now. Black.
So to give you an idea of the route that you will be taking, route. That was an unintended joke. You were in Arkham. You'll be driving past Salem to Concord, then to Hudson, then to Worcester, and then up to Rutland. Back then, your cars don't travel very fast. So yeah, 3.5 hours is probably good, unless you stop someplace to eat along the way. And we'll say you're leaving about, we'll say he called you in at 9 a.m. So 10, 11, 12. About by 1 o'clock, you should be there.
There's a lot of elms in Massachusetts. I think we should petition that to be a state tree or something.
Isn't it already?
Well, as just as an outside meta thing, the Dutch elm disease is going to hit the United States in 1928 and pretty much wipe out all of the elm trees, most of the elm trees, which is a shame because they're beautiful big trees. All right. So you drive. Was there anything you wanted to do along the way? Did you want to have a discussion of any kind? Or we can move ahead to you guys pulling into the town.
I don't think so.
I'm happy to be pouring over notes for the majority of the drive.
As he told you, Worcester is the largest city that's in that part of the state, and it's about an hour southeast of Rutland. So if you need anything extravagant, you'd probably have to go there to get it. All right, so you're driving along. You've left Worcester. You're traveling, and the road eventually becomes kind of more primitive, 2-lane, compacted clay and dirt, with some minor ruts that have sort of worn their way into the road. You're going through farmland. It's springtime, so there are some crops growing in the fields that are starting to, get green. There's grains, but they're not high yet. They're maybe a foot and a half high. And you start to come, you can see probably first, you can see a little church steeple off in the distance. And then as you're coming closer to it, you see that it's a fairly small town. Probably has a population of 150 people at the most. You drive through it, you can see that there is a general store, there's a sheriff's office, there's a small free library, there is a little it's a courthouse, but it's not a big courthouse, it's a little courthouse, a mayor's residence. And then there's a high school, which is called the Central High School. And then there's a big field near the high school. And as you're coming up, you can see that there are people. There is a single sheriff's car that's sort of parked there. And there's this big tree. There are people milling around it, people looking at it. And you can't really see details because people are blocking your view as you come up to the area to park. The sheriff seems to be kind of trying to motion for people to back up, go away. He notices you coming and he starts to come over towards you are. They've been expecting you. He comes up, he knocks on one of you on your window. You're the scientists. You can park right over here.
Thank you.
And he seems to grab somebody and tell them something, and you see that person run off towards the town, like to fetch somebody or to get somebody. All right.
Doesn't seem like the kind of town that gets a lot of guests. Must be big news.
Certainly not, especially if this is the tree that's been affected. It's a lovely specimen from what I can see.
Let's figure out what's wrong with it. I'm going to get out of the car, dust my suit off, and offer the sheriff a handshake. Dr. Herman Elsner.
And he introduces himself as Sheriff Pete Benchant. Patricia, do a spot hidden for me as you're getting out of the car.
Ha! 004.
Okay. So you're looking over at the tree, and you're still a little bit a ways from it. And you can see that, at least in your opinion, that it's taken some damage, probably from, you just finished winter. So big trees like this will often have broken branches from the snow and the cold. And so you notice there's some damage to it, but you also notice there is a slight tinge of green where maybe leaves are starting to bud on the tips, giving it just a slight shimmer of green. You see that on other, trees that are coming out of their dormancy as you're walking towards it.
So that seems mostly normal to me,
that would seem completely normal for this time of year.
Okay. I started murmuring under my breath. Seems from where I can see, other than some damage from winter, it seems normal. Starting to have some budding, but again, that's normal. That's normal for this time of year. The trees around them are starting to have them too, but I'll have to probably come up closer to say why they think it's dying. Just
Okay.
at least from where I'm standing.
So you're still at the car, but you're going to start moving in that direction. Well, how about the rest of you? You
Mhm.
do notice the high school's right next to the field.
Interesting.
I think,
It's fine. I'm gonna go to the high school.
The sheriff says to you that he has sent somebody to go fetch the mayor.
Actually, before I go up to the tree, I am gonna, talk to the sheriff first after I introduce
Okay.
myself. Sheriff,
Yes,
I'm
miss.
I'm Dr. Patricia Astor. I'm a botanist from Mr. Tonic. Now I have to admit, I've only just had a bit of time to look at this lovely specimen, but from what I can tell, at least from far away, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. Will it be will it be easier to see closer up?
You have to get closer to it. You'll see the purple goop.
Pardon?
Purple, you say,
I'm sorry.
eh?
Did you say purple goop?
Yeah, there's something definitely wrong with the tree, and there's blisters.
Blisters.
Purple blisters on the tree,
Sure.
you say.
Sheriff, do you have any healthy trees nearby? Is this the only tree that's affected like this?
So far,
Or-
it's the only one that we've
okay.
seen that has anything wrong
Interesting.
with it.
I'll have to experiment with Cox postulates at some point.
Well, I sort of mutter under my breath, that certainly rules out Dutch elm. It doesn't manifest in purple.
Now, Dr. Lee, are there different insects or animal infections that can cause that type of thing? Yeah.
from what I understand, most insects that plague elm trees eat the leaves. That's why I'm a bit surprised that there are no leaves on the tree. I think as she would approach, she would sort of scan the ground looking for a lot of beetles. But to her knowledge, I'm happy to roll relevant skill. But I don't think any trees would bore into the bark itself of an elm.
It appears then we need to dig deeper to find out the root of the problem, eh?
So
Oh my God, I can't believe I walked into that.
we're assuming that you guys are walking towards the tree as you're saying this.
I've got my test kit out.
I'm gonna grab a
Yeah,
tree-ish,
I've got
and
my
a spatula
equipment
and-
with me. Yeah.
You guys have gloves and everything else.
Yeah,
And
of course.
PPE.
All right. So I would like everybody to do spot hiddens as you're walking. You're walking into this sort of crowd.
25. That's
people.
base.
56 out of
fail.
55. I spent one.
Is a hard success for me.
Okay.
Pass.
Okay. Did you pass with regular or hard?
Oh, regular.
All right. So those of you who didn't pass, you're looking at the tree as you're approaching. You're having to kind of push your way, past some of these people, and they all seem to be just sort of looky-loos. Those of you who got a regular pass, there is an odd sort of look in some of the people's faces, like they're, I don't know, they're overly concentrating on the tree. They're staring at it. People around them are having animated conversations and they're kind of quiet. And then who got a hard?
That was me.
Lucas, Dr. Lucas, as you're looking, you start to notice that there are distinct differences in the people. There's probably about 20 people that are in the group. Some of them just seem to be, these are all farmer folk. They're all, townsfolk. Some of them do seem kind of quiet, but there are a couple of them that have gone up to the tree and it's almost like they're soothing the tree by, like you would an animal. They're stroking their hands on the bark in a really odd sort of way. The other thing that you notice is beyond the tree, there are two people in the field that seem to be ignoring the tree and they're just walking about, but they're not like walking past. They're wandering around the field looking at the ground as they're walking. Like they're looking for something, but this all blends into this 20 or so
Interesting.
people that are there. And the sheriff is starting to say, now, folks, you all need to go home. These are the doctors from the Miskatonic. They're going to see what's wrong with the tree.
I say, Sheriff, how long have you been in this here town, eh?
Oh, I've been here most of my life.
First time you've seen something like this? Because
Oh,
I
yeah.
do declare purple is rather weird.
Never seen anything like it.
This is certainly quite strange. It's been quite a long car ride. I think I'm going to stretch my legs. And I'm going to walk over. This tree's not going anywhere. I don't think the purple goo is going anywhere either. I'm going to walk past to these people that are scanning the field,
Okay.
doing whatever that is.
Okay. So you're going to go over there. Dr. Herman? Dr.
I'd like to
Ellsworth.
pull Dr. May to the side.
Okay.
Herman,
Dr. May, do you know about diseases? It's your field.
I have
Look how
some.
these citizens are acting very strangely.
Some do appear a bit more confused, concentrated.
I bet I can get a saliva sample. I'll buy one of the people a soda and then offer to take their trash.
That's good thinking. Do you think we'll have the equipment in the labs here in the school to do the research you need?
We'd have a microscope, right?
Yeah, you would have. Well, there
Yeah,
definitely
so-
would be those in the high school.
We'll have the microscope. So I'll get a sample of the tree and then a sample of the saliva.
Yeah,
So
I've definitely
walk over to the
brought
general
my
store.
own microscope that I could pack into a case as well.
Mhm.
Along with
Probably a better
relevant
one.
slides and
Yeah.
what are they called? Watch glasses are the thing. Anyway, not important. Yeah, the point being, we have microscopes for sure.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So as you are approaching the tree, now you start to notice what the sheriff was talking about. There are definitely places in the bark where part of the bark has been sort of sheared off a little, and there are large black sort of pustules that have welled up in the wood. Dr. Lee, without having to do like an entomology roll, because it's fairly common, you start to think about wasps and oak trees, that they will cause galls. They'll actually implant a grub in the wood, and it causes the wood to swell up and make a blister.
Mhm.
It kind of looks like that sort of growth, but it's definitely wood, and they are leaking this purple sap. It's kind of bright purple, very bright against the bark, and it seems to be mostly in the center of the trunk area going up, but from the branches, there's branches up above that also have the purple goop, and it's dripping down onto the ground in places.
Okay.
Did
Well,
anyone think to bring an umbrella?
I didn't
You
think about.
always have umbrellas in Massachusetts.
Yeah, really. I will say though, as I approach the tree, I do reach into my testing kit and pull out a test tube, and just get myself over to like an area where I can just hold it under where it looks like some of this stuff is dripping, and just wait for it to drip.
It flows like sap, so
Okay. Get a little sample, cork.
it seems to have the consistency of sap.
I think
Mhm.
Dr. Lee would certainly convey that it could be certain types of wasps or beetles that are known to lay grubs. This could be perhaps a new invasive species.
But this color of purple though doesn't normally occur in nature. Do you think?
Well, maybe they got into a dye factory. I don't know. Insects can survive all sorts of things.
Then again, I have heard about about honeybees making red honey after they got themselves all caught up in a slaughterhouse. So
It's true.
Is it staining the ground, or does it seem like
There are places where there are little puddles where it's accumulating. Dr. Freddie, do a biology.
right? Oh, okay. I'm gonna spend 4 luck, and it is a extreme.
Oh, okay. So it's probably something you'd want to point out to Dr. Lee, but as you're looking, you're noticing these little puddles of the goop, accumulating right near the trunk and stuff like that. But you suddenly realize that there are a number of fairly common ant nests. Usually, like I think harvestman ants are those big, fat, red ants that are you'll find them, in sand and dirt and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of them that are moving forward, and they are each taking a little bit of the purple stuff and turning around and taking it back into their nest. You can see a whole line of them that are doing this.
So I point or gesture at the puddles and the ants around, and I, look over to Dr. Lee. I say, Dr. Lee, does this look normal to you, for ants to behave like that? Now I know that they have colonies and queens and all of that, but in liquid, I don't know if the pheromones stick around and then they get the right orders. So what's going on here?
Dr. Lee, you can do an entomology. Well, if you
Okay.
want, yeah.
That's my assumption. May be this is flowing like sap. It may taste like it, but I won't be the first person to try. That is a hard success, just under 34 under 71.
The thing that bothers you, though, about that, I mean, at first you'd think, yeah, if it's sweet, like sap can be sweet, that might be it. But that particular species of ant, those are harvestmen, they eat seeds. They collect seeds and eat grains. That's why you usually find them near grain fields and stuff like that. They don't go for the sweet. That's another species of ant entirely that goes for sweets. So it really doesn't make much sense. They're also carving out perfect little round balls of the stuff and then taking it into their, just large enough to carry.
So for the purposes of travel, how many, just say specimen containing beakers or dishes would I have reasonably packed with me?
However many you need.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was like you got to.
No.
So I think she would definitely, before seeing this, her priority was to go over to these pustules on the tree and potentially with like a scalpel and a couple of tongs, like try and slice one, assuming that a grub would fall out or something and collect the innards. Okay. But I think instead she'll lean down and try and let some of these ants walk into a petri dish. If they don't do it on their own, like for some reason avoid it very surreptitiously, she will encourage them and just sort of scoop them in with some tongs and slap the top on the petri dish.
Very easy to do.
Yeah.
The cutting into the tree where the galls are, you'd need a little saw or something because it's still hard wood.
Oh, okay. So it's not that thin.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you don't know how thick it is, but usually it's the tree. The tree is reacting to something. To an injury. And it's usually, if it's a wasp, it swells up. But that, also it wouldn't do that fast. It usually takes half a season for, that to happen.
I sort of looked over to the sheriff and asked, when did you first notice this happened?
Just about 4 days ago.
Was there anything, did anything unusual happen in town before then, or anything terribly out of the ordinary?
Oh, I don't know anything unusual. I think that, what day did I say that it was? It's
April 6th.
April
April
6th.
6th, yeah.
No, I mean, what's sort of unusual? I mean, people have been going about their business. It's only in the last day or two that people have really noticed.
Well, I
this.
mean, anything that I suppose I would say that would be outside of your usual routines, like strange weather, people in town you'd never seen before, activity near the tree that maybe wouldn't have been considered normal for this time of year, anything like that.
I can think of nothing. I mean, we were supposed to have a thunderstorm, and we never had the thunderstorm.
Hmm.
That sort of.
I say, Sheriff, is this tree or this area near any local water sources, wells, that type of thing?
Well, there's a creek, over in that direction, and of course, this tree's so huge. I'm sure that it taps into the water table under the ground.
Certainly, certainly. As I get closer to the tree, 'cause I'm gonna try and avoid getting dripped on, but I do want to sort of take a closer look at the tree itself. Just the galls are interesting, but I'm trying to figure out as I'm looking at it where's the I hate to even say this. Where's the root cause of all this? Like, how far into the tree do I have to go? Like where does it appear that this all seems to be stemming from?
Go ahead and do a botany roll.
And I'm sorry, sorry.
That is a regular success.
Okay. It's interesting because I mean you're familiar with this type of tree, and you're familiar with biology, botany. There appears to be places on the tree that have been damaged. I mentioned that the bark had been stripped off, that there were blisters, that you can see that there have been some broken branches, which you assume from the winter. Most of the purple stuff is coming from where the tree was injured, but at the same time, the progress of healing of the tree also seems to be quite accelerated. That there's a gash, but the gash is starting to
It's already starting to
over.
close.
Right.
Okay.
And if this was something recent, that shouldn't be like that.
Okay.
There would be gashes in a tree.
I pull up my little notepad, sketch pad, whatever, and make a very quick sketch of the wound so that I can refer back to it later.
Okay.
As I'm looking at it though, does it appear that the wound was from something natural, like a lightning strike or an animal claw or something like that, or does it appear like it might have been purposely done by human machine, human tools or something like that?
No, you don't see any burn marks.
Okay.
So probably not lightning. Though that might also be a little surprising because this tree is large enough that it would occasionally probably get hit by lightning. But it's gotten lucky for 150 years. There are places, the odd thing is that some of the bark's been stripped off, which could be done with a hand axe or something like that. But you don't see any definite hand axe chops or anything like that. Plus, the people here love this tree. Who would go after it with a hand axe?
So from what I can tell, it looks like it could have been done. Maybe someone infected the tree. It could be, but I don't see why anyone here would.
So at that point, Freddy's going to take out his pocket knife, gouge the elm tree a little bit, with scooping up some of the purple goo. And I'm assuming there are other elm trees nearby. Scratch that other elm tree with the purple goo, and then he's going to clean up the knife and then gouge yet another elm tree without the purple goo on his knife, and he'll come back and say, well, let's do an experiment. We have a control, let's see what happens.
So what are you hoping to find?
I'm hoping to see one, if the goo is infectious somehow, and two, if the rate of healing between different gouged trees versus the original one is rapidly different or dramatically different.
Okay.
Like any good
And-
scientist.
And Dr. Lee, you were going to say something earlier.
Yes, I apologize.
And
Did
then we'll
you
get to
say that?
Lucas. Yeah.
Did you say that there was a river, maybe like a quarter mile or so
Hmm.
down, and then that this tree may be tapping into a groundwater source or an
Well,
aquifer?
the creek is just on the other side of the field. I mean, it's Massachusetts. There's a lot of water. There's probably little creeks and lakes everywhere. But that this tree is large enough that it's probably well down into the groundwater table.
Hmm.
You don't have to water a tree this big; it waters itself.
Right.
Dr. Lacrimose, you've wandered out into the field, and there's these two people walking around back and forth. What do you want to do?
I'm gonna hang back for a minute and watch and observe what they're currently doing.
Okay.
Excuse me.
They seem to be wandering. And I say wandering because they're not like walking in a straight line, and they're not being systematic. They're just sort of randomly walking about with their heads on, looking down and wandering through the tall grass and stuff like that. They're not talking. They're not doing anything other than that.
Interesting.
They don't look up at you when you approach.
Yeah. I'll call out to them. Hey, friends.
They don't respond.
Interesting. I'm going to sort of try and trail one of them, also looking down at the ground, and see if I can find anything that would be worth looking at on the ground in this long grass.
They're making a trail, obviously through the grass where they've stepped on it, but they keep looping backwards and crisscrossing their own path. In what seems to be in just kind of an almost mindless sort of state, almost like a dance or just beetles walking around doing nothing, except wandering. That's the best way you could describe it, is wandering. What do you want to do? No rhyme to it nor reason to it. None of them ever leans over and picks anything up or does anything like that.
So I'd like to sort of sprint around them and get a better look at them. So see if I can identify features about them, whether they're holding anything, carrying anything.
They both look like, local farm folk. One of them probably looks like he's in his 50s. The other one looks like he's maybe in his 30s. Their clothing is a little dirty. It's farm folk, it's as if they were on the farm. Do you try to head one of them off?
Yeah, so I'm going to try and specifically cut one off and stand in front of where I think they're going to go.
So the older fellow is walking in your direction, and he doesn't seem to notice you standing there, and he walks right up to you, maybe within a couple of feet of you, and at that point he would be seeing your feet, and when he sees your feet, he sort of looks up at you into your face and he says, "Oh, excuse me," and then he just starts going around you and going right back to what he was doing.
Okay, interesting. I might leave them to it and then disappear off to the tree then. I don't think I'm going to get much out of them. That's super strange though.
Okay.
As I come back to the tree, I'll go.
Now that you have all approached the tree, the sheriff has kind of told people to go home, go back to what they were doing, worry about this. Most of them have done that. There were a few of them that were acting rather oddly around the tree. A woman was petting the tree, so to speak. She took a little more effort on the sheriff's part. He's like, Margaret, you need to, go back to the diner, go back to what you were doing. And she looks at him and says a couple of things, seems rather confused. And he says, no, go now. You just go on. These doctors will take care of the tree. And so she eventually starts to just wander away, going back into the town. Some of the people that seemed to be focused on the tree, they were a little easier. He just had to get their attention and then they would walk away.
Do we notice anything on their hands to indicate they've been stained by the sap at all?
Do a luck roll. Do a spot hidden roll.
Ooh, 39 over 60. So, yeah.
Yeah, you think that Margaret might have had a little bit of the purple stuff on her hand.
But not lips or anything, right?
No, not on her face. And she walks away, but there's still that sort of dazed sort of look.
Can I follow her and offer her a soft drink?
Sure.
Yeah. Fine weather for a soft drink. Can I offer her one?
You have a soft drink?
Yeah, I purchased one at the store.
You come up to her. It's a strange encounter. So she's walking slowly back towards the town. You come up next to her, and she doesn't really pay attention to you there as you come up. What do you do?
Say, I heard your name was Margaret, right? Have you lived in town for long?
Margaret, yes. Yeah, that's my name. I've lived here most of my life. Margaret Rutland, that's my name.
Now, what do you do for work?
Oh, I'm married to the grocer.
Also, you look absolutely dehydrated. I hand her the drink.
And she sort of looks at it and she's like, I don't want that.
Oh, what do you want?
I'm just going to go back like the sheriff said.
Okay. Why were you stroking the tree?
And she looks at you very strangely, like she doesn't quite understand what you were saying to her. And she says, it's hurt.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out what's wrong with it and hopefully fix that problem.
And there's a moment of hesitation. She's just frozen for a moment looking at you. And then she just turns and walks back towards the town without saying goodbye, without even sort of acknowledging you.
Dr. Lee, how are those ants reacting in that petri dish of yours? Are they just wandering about, or are they all at one direction or another?
They are in fact just wandering about.
So they're not weighted over to one side, trying to walk in all the same direction.
They're all just walking. Yeah, I mean, they might follow each other once in a while, but they've all still got the little bits of food in or purple stuff in their mouth. About this time, the mayor shows up. He comes up and he says, "Oh, I'm so glad that you've all come. I'm Mayor Don Merrick.
Mayor Merrick, it's wonderful to meet you.
I'm glad that Homer was able to send you out."
Yes, Homer's a respected colleague of ours. Now, tell me, I've been just down the fields with a couple of older gentlemen and maybe younger gentlemen as well. Is there a father and son duo that works around here that you would know of?
Who are you talking about?
Well, I don't know. Can you just cast your eyes over this way for us?
Yeah, he looks out there.
Yeah, do you see these two pottering around? There's an older and a younger guy just sort of...
He's like, well, that's Dennis O'Neill.
Dennis.
He owns a farm nearby. The other one looks like Thomas Johnson, also a farmer, different farms.
That's interesting. They must be very enthralled in what they're doing. They didn't
What are
react
they
when I
looking
called
for?
out to them. I've got no idea. I went down and had a look myself, and I saw nothing of particular interest. Anyway,
Do you guys think you can save our tree from whatever it is that's hurting it?
certainly we can. I'm going to go take my own samples. Whatever happens, I'm going to make sure that I don't cross-contaminate with any other trees. That would be reckless. This could be a harmful biological pathogen for all we know.
Oh well, I don't know anything about that, but hopefully not. They told you that they've opened up the high school.
Yes, they have, and we certainly appreciate the use of the facility, sir.
You see that rust-colored door, that orangey red door right over there, and
Yes.
the big window. That's the room. They should have opened that up for you. It's room number 17.
All right.
If you want, I can take you over there and show you.
That would be good. I've taken some samples. Before I go though, I do want to look at plants that might be around the base of this tree
Okay.
to see. Well, I want to look at plants that have not been hit by the sap or have been growing in the vicinity, and then also at some plants that either have gotten hit or have had one splash far enough that their roots probably could have gotten it.
Close to the tree, maybe within 3 or 4 feet of the tree. It's mostly just dirt. And then after that, there are little patches of grass that are, sort of springing up, weedy kind of grass. There are a few drips that you might find on some of the grass. It doesn't seem to have done anything to the grass. It's springtime grass coming up. It's not unusual.
I do want to take a couple samples though, just to have a look at it, because there might be more going on that I can't see with a naked eye.
Okay.
So a bit of grass that has not been dripped on goes into one little petri dish, and then in another petri dish is some grass that has gotten dripped on. And I do pull out some of my tools to try and to bring the roots with it. Because you never know what stuff might be affecting.
So it sounds like you've all collected certain samples, done sketches.
I would like to ask Mayor Merrick just a quick question. Do you know if anyone has done any water sounding around here just to see if I could get a map of potential water tables in the area? I'm not ruling out that there could be some sort of weevils perhaps infesting this tree that perhaps got into a tie-dye factory. But yes, I'd like to see if ground tables had been charted around this town.
Wow. We could check in the Hall of Records, but honestly, these are mostly farmers out here. Quite honestly, some of them still use water witches to find their wells. But I don't think that we have anything like that in the town records. I'll check tonight and get back to you if you've got anything, if I find anything like that. But most likely, there's creeks and little rivers and there's ponds here and there. So there's quite a lot of water. The water table is probably only 5 feet under the soil.
Okay.
So something, I hope nothing gets in the groundwater. Something gets in the groundwater and,
That's exactly what I want to rule out.
That's going to, there's a lot of people have wells out here.
Are there any public wells, or is it mostly each farmstead having their own?
Farms have them. A few of the buildings have them. Most of them are, anything in town's not going to be an open well. We've got some machinery that pumps the water up, but out on the farms there might be open wells.
But just for curiosity's sake, I am also going to want to take just a couple of samples out of a couple of the various wells just to have a look at, because again, you never know.
We could probably get you a town map that'll show you where those sort of things are.
Okay.
So he is going to walk whoever wants to over to the science lab, the high school science lab. Who wants to go with him? Who wants to stay? Who wants to do something else?
I'll go with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to go to the lab.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So he walks you over. It's a nice little high school. This is back in the day and age when they didn't put fences around everything. So it's just you walk right up to the high school. It's not a large high school because, they don't have that many kids. He opens up the door and it's typical. There's, because it's a science class, there are tables that are about, waist high, with gas Bunsen burner outlets on each of the tables. There are sinks for washing stuff out, and there are some metal cabinets that have supplies in them. Those are locked, but he just walks over to the teacher's desk, opens it up, and pulls out the keys. Says these are the keys for that.
Is there like a class pet gerbil or rat or any sort of little caged animal?
Not right now, because they've just come out of winter.
Okay.
They've been on spring break.
Okay.
I give you that look of no, you are not feeding the gerbil the sap.
Patricia, we're scientists.
We are not screwing with a class pet. Leave it.
One person's pet is another person's lab experiment. But for now, I agree.
All right, so you guys
um,
are all in the classroom.
Has the mayor left?
Yes.
Yeah, the mayor.
Right.
I would like to just say we shouldn't have anything. We shouldn't eat anything that was probably made in this town, considering that the water, there might be some
Might be affected.
sap in the water.
I would definitely
Good.
want to. I definitely want to look at the water samples before I consume anything here.
And so I do think after we have a great montage of trying to figure out what this purple goo is, and I find a way to identify it, while we're conferring, I would very much like to get water samples from the wells of the O'Neill and the Jefferson farms.
Okay.
I suspect maybe they may be in a more vulnerable position and have
Mhm.
consumed more than most.
Okay. All right. So I'll give you some things that happen along the way. You do a chemical analysis. Dr. Elsner,
Mhm.
you do a chemical analysis. The stuff seems to be pretty base. It's not acidic or anything like that. It seems to be an organic compound, but it's nothing like tree sap. It's very strange. You also notice that it has some mimetic properties. It seems to take on the color of other things around it sometimes when you're fiddling with the stuff. Dr. Lee, you are examining your collection of ants that you've done who are still just wandering in circles around your petri dish. And when you get out, magnifying lens or a loop, and you're taking a closer look, you're suddenly quite startled. These are not just worker ants. These are there's a caste system. They have, guardian soldiers and things like that, and ants that take care of eggs. And then they have, of course, workers that go out and look for food. These contain all the castes except the queen. And they're all doing identical jobs, carrying these stupid little purple balls around. That's startling because it makes absolutely no sense for them. You can do a sanity roll, and if you lose,
Definitely
you
would.
just get one sanity damage.
That is a 94, so take
Ooh.
one.
Yeah, you just
My
take
dear
one.
Lee, you look absolutely petrified. What did you find about the trees?
Okay, I'll give you that one, but this is a bit weird. this is like if every single bee in a hive was going after one specific type of flower, that they're breaking the laws that these insects typically follow at trying to get more of this substance. Everyone but a queen is here.
So what? Are we talking like, what is this? Ant crack?
Overridden their survival instincts, you say?
Possibly just to consume more of it or something with it.
Again, ant drug, possibly.
Well, you haven't seen them consume any of it. They're just
right. They're just carrying it, and it formed into small balls when they were carrying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would like to lock them in the display cabinet, just to see perhaps either they'll walk themselves to death and die, or perhaps consume these. Sometimes ants will just eat the sugar before it can get back to the queen.
In general, it would take an ant a couple of weeks to die, even without food. So that would take a long time. But you could see what happens.
Have you tried separating the goop from the ant? Would they just pick it back up again?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, like with tweezers.
Yeah, can I try and do that?
Sure. So you have a little bit of a wrestling match with one of the bigger soldier ants for the piece of goop, but eventually, you're a million times stronger. So you snatch the little bit of goop away, and when you do, the ant sort of stops in its place and starts to do little circles or just random wandering about. What do you do with the little ball of goop?
I would wave over and ask for 2 spare petri dishes, and I would put the little ball in one, and I would put this wandering ant in another. And I would ask Dr. Lacrimose, excuse me, you said that those farmhands were wandering around. Does this seem at all similar?
Well, they're wandering mostly without purpose. If this ant is doing the same, then potentially this is similar behavior.
Well, I know ants, and I'm telling you, these are without purpose.
Wait, what if we give those farmhands that were wandering some of this sap?
Now, before we do that, Herman.
Excuse me, Dr. Elmer. You sound like Dr.
Maybe
May.
we'll want to see.
That strikes me as incredibly reckless.
What acid we can scare up to neutralize these spaces. That would also be interesting, my friend.
That's true.
Then we talk to the farmers.
Then we feed them the goop.
While they're all talking about this, I'm going to be examining my plant samples. Does it appear that this stuff has affected that grass that it dripped on in any way?
Not at all.
No?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be absorbed. It doesn't seem to burn or change or discolor the plants in any way.
So if I took some tweezers and just very gently plucked the stuff off the grass, it would look fine.
Exactly.
That's unusual.
And Dr. Herman, you mentioned that the young lady wasn't all that interested in your offer of a soft drink.
No. It was quite strange. She was just not there.
I wonder if we put a few drops in another soft drink, if you'll elicit a different reaction.
We are not feeding random city folk this stuff for our own curiosity.
Patricia, offer.
Well, if they're sick, we have to diagnose.
How have I worked with such unethical people all this time?
Look, university ethics boards are probably still a couple decades away from being formalized. However, this is still not okay. Excuse me. I think the most responsible thing to do is go and take some samples from some healthy trees and try and transplant the goop into these healthy tree samples and see if it propagates. If that is the case, then we know that this is the causal of the problem. This may, in fact, be a side effect of something else, which I am frankly concerned about.
Agreed.
Biological analysis of the goop proves to be very bizarre. It seems to have enzymes and properties that would seem to indicate that it was plant-based, but there's also proteins that would seem to indicate that it was animal-based. And there's some things in there that don't seem to be, they seem to defy either one of those kingdoms. Maybe fungus-based. It definitely does not look like an algae or a bacteria that's involved. It's not a virus. So for the microbiologist, you're not sure that there would be any kind of mechanism for infection, which is very strange.
If this doesn't look like a bacteria or a virus, then there's no reason to suggest it would actually do anything. So this is likely a response from the tree in regards to some new media. I think we may have to go have a look at these tree wounds in a bit more detail, perhaps for the latter, for the higher reach ones. It may be the case that something is embedded in there. It may be the case that something through the water system has gone into the tree and has elicited this response. So the goo is disconcerting, but I am currently unconvinced that it is the main issue at hand.
You hear the sound of wheels on, gravelly dirt. And just outside, you can see through the window. You see the sheriff's car pull up, and he gets out, and a farmer also gets out with him, and they come over towards the door of your makeshift lab.
I sort of pop my head out. Sheriff, can I help you?
Yeah, this here is Paul Samuels. He's a farmer. Well, Paul, you tell him. It says they said you were scientists. You
we are, yes,
working on the tree. Well, I don't know nothing about the tree, but I own a farm about 2 miles that direction. Something's killing my cows, and it's pretty damn weird. There's some purple shit on the cows.
Really?
Cow shit purple, you say?
No, the cows are like torn up.
Cool, like wild animals. Like claws?
No,
Do you see?
like, I don't know what to say. Like they
Like
pop
boils?
from the inside.
Well, let's not make any assumptions until we actually see these cattle. I would like to have a look.
Let's take a look.
So are you all going to go?
While they do that, I might go to the general store with a few beverages.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be of much use in this case because I'm a botanist, not a zoologist. But
I've studied basic biology.
Yeah.
I'll go to the cows. Dr. Lee, you wanted to get some water samples, did you not?
Yes, I did. I guess I'll do that then.
Okay.
So Lee will also ask Dr. May, against her better judgment, see if you can find some raccoon traps or mouse traps or something. We could stand for a few non-human test subjects to see how they react.
I will go to the general store and I will come and join all of you shortly.
Yeah, field mice should be fairly easy to catch.
Right.
Right, just some kind of little mouse motel thing.
All right, so who's going to go to the farm? Okay, and who's collecting water samples?
Dr. Lee will collect one. Oh, you'll do that? Okay.
Okay. Okay, well, you're going to the farm and you're collecting water samples?
Well, I mean, I guess I might want to grab water from his farm because he's having dead cattle. It could be there too.
And Dr. May, you are?
I'm heading to the general store with a few beverages.
All right.
And mouse
Keep track.
traps.
So everybody is going to the farm except for Dr. May is going.
I'll be there soon, maybe.
Right.
Well, you could stop by the store as you go through town. You know.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Don't worry, gentlemen. I'll go in alone with a few drinks.
I'm
right.
going to go in and buy some vinegar.
Oh, and food too, probably canned goods.
Yeah.
We don't know how,
Oh,
how
yeah,
long
a lot of
we're going to
canned
be
goods.
here.
Yeah. When you say that, of course, the sheriff says, "Oh, but you're going to be staying over at Susie Lancaster's, and she's a really good cook."
Absolutely.
I have allergies.
Nobody on the planet has allergies in 1920.
I am lactose intolerant.
No, these they're just for snacks.
Yeah, I think that would just be described as
All right.
having a weak
So
constitution.
that's cool. You guys get snacks, and you guys get anything you need from the general store. Did you want to? You notice Margaret is in the general store.
So I'm going to
her
offer her
husband's-
the drink again, but this is after a few drops of the goo in the drink to see if she reacts at all. Would you care for a drink, miss?
She is behind the counter. Her husband's there too, running the place, and she.
Bit of a hot weather, yeah.
When you come in, you go up to her with the drink, the tainted drink that you've done. What happens is, as you walk up to her with that drink, she suddenly looks at you, kind of like with a surprised sort of look, and almost before you can get the words out of your mouth, she reaches forward and takes the drink out of your hands.
Ma'am, may I help you?
And
This is my drink.
She's
This is
staring at the
mine.
drink.
This is my drink. How do either of them react, like just the woman, or?
She
I
just
do
stands there.
declare.
She just stands there staring at it. But Mr. Rundle, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. My wife's not feeling very good today. Here, let me get you another drink."
That's fine. Would you like this one? And then I offer him the drink, and does he react?
Um,
Oh, she already. Oh, sure, he took the drink from you, right?
yeah, she took the
Okay.
drink from you.
Okay. Well,
Um,
my dear listener, it seems science is afoot. Eh?
So whatever you guys get from the store, there's a couple things that happen. One is
Hmm.
you go back out to the car, you get back in the car to head towards the farm. And as you are pulling away, you see Margaret come out of the store, holding the can in front of her, just in an odd sort of way. And she turns and she's walking towards the tree, which gets your attention. And you look over at the tree, and the two guys that were in the field, they're still there wandering around. And another guy has joined them, and he's now stroking the tree like Margaret was doing earlier. But at this point, you're now pulling away.
Did
heading
she
towards the
drink
farm.
the beverage, or did
No.
she just take it?
She just takes it,
And now she's taking
She's
it
just
back to the tree.
holding it out in front of her in an
Oh.
odd sort of
I kind
manner.
of glance over to Dr. Lee. I'm like, is it me or is she acting like those ants?
It's true.
Seems
Except
that
the
way.
opposable thumbs, of course.
Well, and I can't play a scientist. I've got to keep my mouth shut. So
I don't like this one bit.
all
No,
right.
I don't either. This is unusual, but all right, let's go to this farm, see about these cattle, and figure out what we're dealing with here.
So it only takes about 5 minutes. You drive over to the Samuels farm, and he parks his car. There's, of course, farmhouse, 2 stories, typical looking farmhouse. There's a big old barn, which looks like a dairy barn. It's kind of longer than normal. And then there's a field, which is mostly low grass. he has corralled a bunch of his cows over to one side of the field. He could put them in the barn from there. He gets out first, and he doesn't walk towards the cows. He starts to walk towards the field. He says, "It's over here."
All right. So I guess my first question is, when did you first discover these exploded bodies, as you said?
Well, I noticed this morning when I was
Okay.
getting ready to let the cows out that
Mhm.
4 of them were missing.
Okay.
And I assumed, I don't count my cows every single day when I take them out in the field and bring them back. So I
Right.
didn't notice last night, but it must have happened last night or sometime, in the
Right.
past. And I just didn't notice until this morning that 4 were missing. I
That's
went looking out in the field and I found them.
now
That's what I'm going to show you.
from in the last few days, have you noticed anything strange about your cattle? Any new food? Any strange behavior?
Same old cows, same every day.
Are these dairy cows or beef cattle? Eh?
Oh, they're dairy cows.
Oh, have you milked them recently
Milk them every day, of course.
and sold the milk?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course.
Any
So to
particular routes you might have sold them to?
well, it would go
Maybe
to the dairy over in Hapsmad. I don't know.
And you have other dairy cows around.
Well, and we keep some of it, of course.
Oh, perfect. So
But as far as you can tell, it's only these 4 cows that have been affected.
Yeah,
You okay if we do a autopsy? We'll cut it open and see what's wrong.
I'd really like it if we get rid of what's out there. I didn't, I went right into town to tell the sheriff what was going on.
Okay.
I need samples of fresh milk from your other cows too. Not a lot, just a little.
Of course. Yeah, you might if there's what is it, some sort of good God, some sort of disease,
Think it might
sure
be,
my
so
other
be
cows
careful, eh?
aren't affected.
Maybe for now, stick with canned foods, things like that. Just be safe there, Paul.
So all of this description could not possibly prepare you for what you're about to see. He walks you out, and you can see there's a place where the grass is kind of munched down in one area. You can see lumps of something out there. And he's like, I don't have the stomach to go out there again. Take a look.
All right. I pull out my notepad and flip to a clean page as I head out there.
So the first thing you notice as you're walking that direction is the smell of rotting meat. It's definitely got a pungent smell. As you get closer and you see the closest one of these cows, the cow seems to have exploded from the inside. There's purple goop all over where it sort of exploded. And they're all, of course, laying on their sides. And some of them have purple goop on their muzzles, on their faces. What do you want to do?
All right. So I sort of have a thought, and I look over at Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't there some species of insect that'll lay their eggs in other things? And then
Yes, but those are usually superficial, just things that are beyond the back, like botflies and such.
Mm-hmm.
If this were an insect, it would be uncomfortably large to have caused something like this.
Dr. May, you can do a biology.
Okay.
63 over 70, so normal pass.
Your first impression is that they consumed something. They consumed some of the goop because it's definitely on their lips and their teeth, and and then maybe it exploded somehow from the inside. So there's
Observe, beloved colleagues, the discoloration around the lips and teeth of our dearly departed cattle.
I'm sketching. I'm making a sketch of a cow's head with some of the stains, and then another sketch of the exploded side.
yeah.
So we're thinking. I glance at everybody. So we are definitely sticking to the canned food, right?
And food, bottled water.
There's likely a source of this purple goop somewhere on the farm that we haven't found yet.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm going to take off and just start searching the grounds for a sort of disease-looking trees or areas
Plants.
that the cows have access to. I'm looking for anything purple or diseased or dead or dying.
I'll help look.
Lucas. Oh, I'm sorry.
I will help look.
Yeah, I'm going with you because this is definitely my specialty. Like, what could they have possibly? Actually, no. What I'm going to do is, I am going to go over to one of the cow bodies that hasn't. It's probably in its most intact. Find one of its stomachs to see if there's any of this in its stomach to see what it could have possibly eaten. So that way, Lucas knows what to look for.
Well, that's the easiest question to answer. It seems like their stomachs have exploded and they're filled with that purple goop.
Does it look like they just consumed the goop on its own, or was it like on a plant?
Well, from the way it looks like they consumed the purple goop and that it burst their stomachs.
All right. So I sort of shout over to Lucas, look for like maybe a pool of this stuff or like a very large source. I'm not seeing any plant matter in their stomachs. It literally made them burst.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most unfortunate water balloon.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee's. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
While they're doing that, Dr. Lee is going to split to go to where the other cows are corralled and see if any of them have pink. If I see it, I'm going to wave the farmer to quarantine them from the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dr. May, what were you going to do?
Oh, Dr. May?
Yeah.
Dr. May will follow the rest of the gentlemen looking for the source of the pollutant.
Okay. So you guys are kind of spreading out. You're not all walking together. You're kind of spreading out.
No.
Right.
My first port of call is going to be a sort of feeding station or like water station that the cattle may have access to, any sort of lakes or reservoirs.
Okay.
And then sort of work my way around from there.
They have a watering trough and they have a feed area, which is over near the barn. I would like each of you who are looking around to do a spot hidden roll.
Okay.
And tell me the level of
Hard.
Extreme.
Mine
got
is
a
just
hard.
a regular success.
Okay. With a regular success, you notice that there's a lot of evidence that other cows were around here, and as you're heading towards them, the cows seem to act like normal cows as you're moving that direction. Those of you who got a hard, you notice that there seems to be definitely areas where the grass in the field has been mashed down. Some of them not necessarily right where the cows were. And then Dr. Astor, you're sort of walking towards one of these mashed down areas. And what you see is this.
Oh my God.
It seems to be about 2 feet long, maybe 6 or 7 inches wide. It looks like it's made out of brass, and there seems to be some odd residual liquid or crystalline substance on the inside of it that is not purple. But you also notice that all around it, the grass is also scorched.
All right. Dr. Elsner, over here.
What is it?
I think I might have found the impact site.
Does that what is that? A canister? This looks like
A
some kind of chemical weapon they'd use in the Great War.
That's what I was thinking. But look at this. This crystalline substance, it's not purple, but it does look like something might have been in here and it broke out. Or
Broke out? You mean?
Well, or I don't know, but normally, because look, the hole is on the side, it's not in front. So it looks like, and you see the scorch mark here? This impacted the grass at very high velocity.
Or maybe it exploded.
Perhaps.
I'll be sure to take a sample of the crystalline structure of the canister. We'll bring that back to the lab at the high school.
I'd like you, Dr. Elsner, to we'll call it a spot hidden, but it's really a smell hidden.
Oh yeah, okay. That is a hard.
All right. This definitely has an odd chemical smell. Not unlike gasoline, but something a little different than that. You can't quite place it. It has that sort of sharp, oily smell, like
Smells industrial.
Yeah, it smells really industrial, and definitely the canister is man-made. It's you can see the weld marks, and you can see it's fairly common
Do
material.
you see any weird markings, around that canister that show you?
I'll pick it up with gloves and rotate it.
Like I was thinking like tank treads or something, or like heavy artillery.
It's not
Chemical weapons.
particularly heavy, but it's what you'd expect it to weigh. And it doesn't really look like a shell. It doesn't look like a weapon shell, more like a container of some sort.
Well, let's see if the farmer has ever seen this. I doubt that, but just to be sure.
Lucas and the people who are walking towards the cows. You get towards the cows and you look at them, and there doesn't seem to be any damage to any of them. They all seem fairly normal, but do a spot hidden as you're examining the cows. For those of you who went to the cows.
97. Not even
Spend
close.
2 luck and get 12 over 60. So extreme.
Okay.
I have a 25 spot hidden, so no, I'm not burning luck on that.
Somehow I have 60 and I'm milking it for all I got.
So Dr. May, you're being very thorough as you're looking, and you do notice that a couple of the cows look like they've got some purple staining on their upper and lower lip in spots. Like maybe they also consumed, but they didn't get very much. And they don't seem to be particularly acting strange. Well, you're a biologist. Maybe they are. Cows in a group do tend to act like cows in a group. And these two particular cows are just standing there kind of blank-faced.
Dear colleagues, it seems like we have secondary.
A secondary exposure.
Yes, let us quarantine these cows and let the farmer know that
Of course.
there might be more. Now
Are you
that we
going to
know
offer them
what
a
to look
soda?
for. Oh, sorry.
Are you going to offer them a soda?
Potentially, I was about to offer them what's left in that canister.
I would
Huh?
rather us not kill any more cows if we can avoid it.
They're already dead, Patricia. If not now, in a few years when they become food.
Yeah, but they're also money to the farmer.
They're gone already.
Since you're all kind of now, you've got the canister, you've wandered around, you're looking at the cows and so forth. Everybody do a luck roll.
Oh, and while we're here, I also want to get some samples out of as well,
see.
just for curiosity's sake.
95.
Even though I'm not expecting anything, you never know.
80.
All right. Well, we'll
you
assume
go.
then that Dr. Astor, you're going over to the well, and it is
Okay.
an open well. I'm sorry.
Also, pass.
Okay. You passed.
62
As
over
exceeded
60.
my luck roll.
Can I burn luck to get the luck?
No.
Who got the worst roll? Was it
I
Dr.
did.
Elsner?
95 out of 59.
So Dr. Elsner, you see Dr. Astor going over towards the well. And you start to move just sort of in that direction. Do you have the canister? Who has the canister?
I've got the canister.
You have the canister in your hand. So it's big, it's cumbersome, it's a couple feet long and so forth. The rest of you suddenly, as you're just sort of wandering in that direction, Dr. Elsner suddenly trips and goes face down into the dirt. And because he's not stopping himself because he's holding that damn canister, he drops the canister and it rattles to the ground. But Dr. Elsner, you go face down into the dirt. You take 1 hit point of damage.
Oops.
Maybe you got a bit of a bloody nose.
Roll luck again to see if you landed in a cow pie.
No, there's no cowboys right there.
Oh,
Dr.
that was,
Elder, are you all right?
I'm quite fine. It's been a long day.
It was an odd sort of trip, though, when he tripped, because there's nothing there except dirt and grass. You realize, Dr. Elsner, that you definitely tripped over something.
I'm gonna feel around where I tripped.
All right. You start to, if you realize the grass is mashed down here in places, and you start to feel around. There's a place where the grass is mashed down, right about where you tripped. You put your hand forward, and your hand comes into contact with something that is completely invisible.
I'm gonna pour some.
I'm gonna roll sanity.
Well,
for
you guys are not right where he is. You've just seen
Right.
him drop, but your hand touches something wet, cold, and flesh-like. It's soft and a little bit, gives a little bit. But yeah, take a sanity roll.
Oh, 78. That's a failure.
All right. Take a couple points of sanity
All right.
because you can't explain
I'll take 4.
how there can be something that you can't see.
Compatriots. I'm gonna call them.
And you all start
Everyone over
walking
here.
towards him.
I've gotten my water samples, but I'm coming over like, what is it?
Dr. Elsner.
And
Yes.
you see him just holding his hand
Do you need me
out.
to kiss your boo-boo better?
Oh, shut up, Lucas. Feel this.
Feels so, that's gross.
I sort of,
I'd like to throw some dirt at it.
You throw some dirt. I think Dr. May said that he was going to.
Well, now I'm actually thinking of going back to the car, getting the thing of vinegar that Herman bought from the store, and pouring the vinegar on it to see how it reacts.
Okay. Your little experiments yield this information. One is, it seems to be, it's like nothing will stick to it. So when you drop your vinegar on it, you see it hit something and flow off, something semi-cylindrical. You throw dirt on it, and a little bit of the dirt settles in a line, like on the top of it, but the rest of the dirt rolls off.
So
It seems to be about 4 feet long and shaped like a tentacle.
Okay, everyone, don't move. Dr. Lee is going to go into the farmhouse in a hustle and ask for a bed sheet or a tablecloth. Even better, if they have one of those classic farm picnic tablecloths, she's just going to rip it off the top and try and drape it over this thing.
Okay. You can all do sanity rolls for this.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely bizarre thing.
81, that's definitely a failure.
Oh,
Pass.
I fumbled.
Fail.
95 over 60.
Okay. If you pass, take 1. If you fail, take 2. So Dr. Lee, you run up to the farmhouse. And the farmer and the sheriff are over there, and they say, "Do you need something?"
Bed sheets, tablecloth, anything.
All right, I'll get you something. Something you're gonna take with you.
Something you may not want back afterwards.
All right. So he brings you an old bed sheet that his wife lets him give you. It's kind of light blue with little daisies all over it. Really,
He grabs one. She like puts it back. She grabs
Right.
another one.
So you come out, and very easily you can cover this thing up. It's very strange, and it's loose. It's literally like you're picking up some sort of squid tentacle or something. There's no suckers,
Hmm.
and one end of it seems to have a bulge, a strange bulge.
I've got my notepad out and I'm sketching the outline under the sheet so I can get an idea of what shape this thing is. So it
Okay.
kind of, again, it kind of looks like a squid arm, but just with a weird bulb at the end.
Yeah, it's fat at one end and thinner at the other, and at the thin end there seems to be like a ball or a protuberance, a fatter end of it, and it's very limp when you're picking it up.
So, okay, and you said that it's about 4 feet long.
Yeah, I probably exaggerated. It's probably about 3 feet at the most.
Okay, but so it seems like light enough. I think while draping the sheet, like I might try rocking it and see like if it's light enough to sort of move. Is it so?
It's light enough to move, but it probably weighs 20 or 30 pounds.
Okay, but not outrageously heavy.
Right.
I think
not
I think
outrageous.
Dr. Lynn will essentially she'll try and just burrito wrap it in the bed sheet so we can sort of have a thing that we can see, and then ask Dr. May, so do you want to poke the bulb, or should we wait to get this in the lab first?
So if I understand, are you able to wrap the entire sheet around it and take it out, or is there
Sure.
like invisible?
You can even
thing?
curl it up a little bit. Yeah,
Okay,
Right,
but,
like, yeah,
but like
burrito wrapping
it's a
the whole-
self-sustained thing.
sure. Yeah.
Self-contained, yeah.
Okay,
This is
I
the
would-
discovery of a century.
it would be very interesting, but probably not here, dear colleagues. Probably not here with all the different cattle around that we want to risk further contamination. I would
Correct.
say perhaps we want to take this back to the lab before we experiment further.
But most
Agreed.
importantly, what shall we name it? I mean, I found it.
Oh, you did find it, my dear Elsner.
Let's not worry about that until we know what we're dealing with. Then we'll bicker over naming rights. All right.
And you'll
You're
get
right.
first
Right now,
title
we should
on the
argue about who is
paper.
going to be first author.
First offer shall be Mr. Elsner, of course.
Well, we have to conduct some experiments. This is our
I call
only
second.
sample.
Well, how many areas of matted grass are there now that we know what to look for?
Quite a few, but most of them look like the cows did it.
Okay, and if we kick it, or if we kick around, we don't feel any more invisible spots.
You don't feel anything more like that. So
Oh,
you
So
have
that so this thing and the canister, and that's what we've got.
Does the
That's what you
canister
got.
line up? No, it's larger than the canister.
it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's much larger
So-
than the canister.
So perhaps it came out from the canister and then grew.
Maybe possible. That's a
Something-
good hypothesis.
Something that occurs to me, one of you chemistry boys mentioned this. The purple goo seemed to be, it would take on the color of some metals that were touching it. Do we think that it might be able to mask something if the right ingredient is touching it?
Possible, yeah.
Camouflage.
Yeah.
How else? If we can, I say, poking at the bedsheet a little bit. If we can, I'd like to see if we can get a sample off the outside of this, so we can sort of see if perhaps this coating is what's making it invisible.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
That means that this thing would be covered in the purple goop.
Yes.
Correct.
So take
And-
caution.
Potentially, these broken limbs off of the central tree may have been from another one of these tentacles, or perhaps the entire organism crashing down somewhere,
Well,
which
is there
is
anything
something I
species?
am terrified of. quite frankly.
Is it possible that whatever landed here, because this looks to have been the impact site, I say, gesturing to where I found the canister, because it looks like was definitely like something landed very hard, and it burned the area around it. Is it possible that maybe whatever this was came down, bounced off the tree on the way down, and landed here?
I mean, aren't we like 2 miles away from the central tree?
Yeah,
It's quite far.
Yeah.
Depending on how fast it's going, it still very easily could
I mean,
have.
if it was going fast, it'd obliterate the tree.
I believe Dr. May was asking, is the sheet getting damp or like wet from the goo touching it?
It doesn't seem to be.
So it's
Okay.
not covered by the liquid, or the sap is not falling off.
Right.
So taking this back to the high school, we have to be prepared for the people acting strangely to act exceedingly strangely around it. Perhaps we could acquire a coffin or something to smuggle it into the. Although that would look like we're transferring a dead body. Perhaps not. I'm
we've
concerned
got a
about the
trunk,
locals' response.
suitcase.
Yeah, we could put that into a suitcase if we can ball it up a bit. Yeah.
Mhm.
You've also got the sheriff there who can help
Mm.
moderate any kind of people that are looky-loos or sneer people,
That would be a good idea to warn the sheriff to make sure our school is well protected.
Okay.
Then I say, if this is a potential infection, then to your point, dear colleagues, what about the tree? What about the tree? Do we leave it around, or perhaps some arson is in order?
I would rather we not have to, but if it turns out to be bad enough, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
For
I
the
think
greater
I would
good,
be inclined to ask if the general store had any marshmallows in stock.
for the greater good.
possibly. You guys are much closer to the barn now than you were before. The sheriff and the farmer come walking over to you. They see that you've wrapped something up in a sheet. They're not particularly curious. They figure you might have cow parts or something in this sheet that you're taking as samples. But the farmer says, "What should I do?"
Well, there are these 3 or 4 cattle that might be also contaminated. I suggest, along with those bodies, take care of the cows, burn everything.
Yeah, I think we can dig a little bit of a pit and
And have
burn
yourselves
them all.
Well, actually,
Burn.
I think you should feed the affected cows vinegar, and if they aren't getting better, then burn them.
Absolutely. That's good scientific thinking, Dr. Ellison.
Because from what we can see, they might have eaten a little bit of this stuff, but not a lot of it. Much less of it than the 4 exploded cows did.
Well, I should at least separate them from the other cows.
Agreed. Yes.
All right. So that's what his plan is. He's going to get his backhoe and he's going to dig a little bit of a half pit and then drag the carcasses into the pit.
Oh, with gloves, please, my dear Paul, with gloves. Don't let any of that get on you.
Okay.
And yes, most certainly do not eat it. This is what happens.
Speaking of that, could we also, do you happen to remember which milk collections were from which cows? If this would have happened just a day ago.
Well, it all goes into the same tank. So
Great.
Mm,
Perhaps diluted.
Hopefully, Pastor, we haven't subjected this to heat. If we subject some of the goo to heat and that sufficiently destroys it, then pasteurization will take care of it and we won't have to worry about that. But if
Why would
we
you pasteurize
I
milk?
believe I would have done some heat tests just to see if there was any reaction.
I mean, everything burned.
so
The stuff seems kind of tough, but it definitely pops, boils, and burns.
So perhaps pasteurize your milk a little longer than you usually would, but
Well, they'll do that at the dairy.
right. So I maybe just make sure to have the dairy pasteurize this particular batch a little more than they normally would, but it should be fine.
Okay. All right, so that's what he's going to do. You guys are going to take your samples, the canister and the tentacle back with you. So you leave the farm, sheriff comes with you. The farmer is going to burn this stuff that he has. As you're coming into town, kind of a small group of people, including Margaret and the two gentlemen, they're closer now. They're milling around the tree. And one of them, you think the younger fellow, he has acquired a ladder and he is climbing up into the tree. He only has to get up into it about 8 feet before the branches are so close together that he can just climb up on his own.
Sheriff?
Hey, you there,
Yes,
boy.
ma'am.
What do you think you're doing? I started yelling.
I sort of gestured what he's doing.
Yeah, the sheriff gets out and he starts to walk in that direction, calling
out,
out to
Sheriff.
them.
Keep
but-
your eyes. Yep.
But the people are not paying any attention to what he's doing.
All leads, I suggest we stay in the car.
Yes, I'm staying with the samples. I'm not risking a strange mob getting a hold of these.
I am going to run towards the tree.
Can you go to the tree? You're like right next to your classroom too.
Yeah. I figure the rest can
Okay.
do scientific analysis without me. I'm going towards the tree. Quite frankly, I want to go up and see what's inside this that they're climbing towards.
Okay.
Steady, Lucas, steady.
So Lucas is heading over there to see what's going on. And the rest of you are just staying inside the car?
I'll head over there. I'm hoping for a second discovery today.
I'll keep the engine running.
At least it won't be Ed L on this one.
I'm going to grab Dr. Lee and let's get these things to the lab while they're distracted.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna keep it going in the car and try and bring the samples quietly into the school building and be sure I can find a way to lock the door if necessary.
Okay. You're close enough to where you can pretty much do that. You're
right
100 feet away from where the tree is. All right. So as you approach the tree and the sheriff's there with you, and he's like, where is it? Dennis, Thomas, get out of the tree. And like this, they're not paying any attention to him. And you notice Dennis he's climbed up into the tree, and I do a spot hidden for me as you're looking.
Regular success.
I failed.
002.
Nice. You notice that there's a couple of moments where it looks like, from your perspective, like he's hesitating to put his hand on a branch. He'll come up to the branch and he'll stop a couple of inches from the branch. But then you realize he can shift his weight. He's touching something that you can't see, is what he's doing. And when he starts to realize that there's something there, you see it almost looks like he's trying to untangle something from the tree, that all you're seeing is weird motions in his arms as he's doing this. The other people that are near the base of the tree are moving around to get underneath where he is. And suddenly something strange happens. As he's doing this, you suddenly see the two on the ground sort of get knocked down, as if something fell out of the tree that you can't see. And then he starts climbing out of the tree, and the other two are on their knees, sort of facing each other. And the sheriff is like, "Get up. What are you people doing? You need to go home." What do you guys do?
The
Dear
rest of the
colleagues,
squid.
do you see that?
It's the rest of the squid. 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 Okay.
I think you're right, Lucas.
I'm gonna start up the ladder after him and try
Okay,
and
you're not quite
climb
that
on
close yet.
this.
We'll say that you're
Okay,
not quite
well,
close.
I'm going to attempt to get to the ladder.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to break out to a sprint, booking it towards the ladder is what I'm going to do.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sort of popping out of the lab once we've got everything settled, and I'm seeing them sprint.
You
I
can
glance over
see
to-
this sort of out of the window too, if you're still
Right, so I'm sort of that's what I know. Dr. Lee, look at this. What are they
Oh, I
doing?
don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
Dr.
No,
May and
not at
Dr.
all.
Elsner. What are you all doing?
I'm gonna head back to the car and, depending on whether there's anyone around, drive to the general store to get me some gasoline or kerosene.
Okay.
I'm going with Dr. May.
Okay, so the two of you are going for gasoline or kerosene. Lucas, as you get up to the ladder, do a spot hidden for me.
I'm going to spend 2 luck to make that a regular success.
Okay. So because you had to spend luck, you get up to the ladder, and the ladder's kind of on the other side of the tree, but you come around and you put a couple of feet on the ladder to start climbing up, and you look back, and the 3 people on their hands and knees with the sheriff kind of yelling at them, they suddenly go and grab something that you can't see and start biting into it. And you can see purple goop splashing on their faces as they're doing this. And they're rather violently biting into this. And the sheriff is like, "What the fuck is going on?" He probably doesn't say fuck, but it's like, "What in tarnations?" Like this. And then the older guy, he sort of looks up and his eyes have gone milky, and this weird crazed sort of look comes on his face. And before the sheriff can back away, he reaches out and he grabs the sheriff's leg and yanks him off of his feet and bites into his leg. The sheriff screaming. What do you do, Lucas?
Arson is the correct solution. I'm going to scream that and try and jump off and book it to the car.
Car's gone. They've driven back into town. You see Aster and Lee inside the classroom.
I feel like I would be leading the mob to them if I were to run into there, which is the pickle I'm currently in. I am going to run away in the vague direction of town and hope I don't get caught.
Okay.
At which point, upon seeing all this and upon seeing the purple stuff on their faces, I look over at Dr. Lee and at the tentacle in the sheet, and I'm like, "Dr. Lee, do you think they have hydrochloric acid in here?"
Well, it's a good thing neither of us are great at chemistry, because I don't know how to make it either. But what I will do is I want to try and put the tentacle in the specimen cabinet, and essentially I want to throw the kitchen sink at it, but test every different household chemical that I can find in this high school chemistry lab, to see if anything would stick to it or have
Dissolve
it start
it?
becoming visible, that we could potentially try to throw or spray or anything.
Okay. Now, what you're talking about, though, is using multiple chemicals. You could very easily create poisonous gas or
Well, this is under the Venta hood, correct? Or did those not exist at this point? Is it just a sealed
I don't think they
cabinet?
had the Venter hood.
No,
Yeah,
they wouldn't.
Darn. Okay.
Ventilation
It's just a
was
high school,
a 60s sort of deal.
All right, so honestly, my thought is, I realize this thing is acidic, but what I'm trying to find is the strongest corrosive acid in this lab to see if we can destroy this tentacle before anyone else gets to it.
it's a high school. They probably don't have anything very strong. There's probably hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid, but it's going to be very dilute. You know,
They might have sulfuric acid or maybe bromic acid.
stuff kids would use in experiments. The teacher could show them what happens when you put sulfuric acid in sugar and stuff like that. Of course, it's actually an old Hollywood myth, the whole pool of acid that dissolves the flesh in a matter of seconds. I don't think there is any acid that would actually do that. It would take a day or two.
It would honestly be faster with bases than acid, but that doesn't sound as cool in Hollywood.
Right. In that case, I look over at her and I'm just like, fire.
I mean, we'll try something. I, of course, did not see everything that happened in the tree, but I'm assuming we may try to sort of test superficial things, but a lot of substances are just sliding off the top. So then with a scalpel and gloves and tongs, making an incision along the tentacle part, and then just assuming pink goo may come out.
Do a strength.
Oh. That is a 93 over 50.
Okay. You find that despite the fact, you've probably got scalpels, the kids would use them to dissect things. This tentacle thing is extremely tough. It's soft and pliable, but it almost snaps off the blade when you try cutting into it. Meanwhile, Dr. Elsner and Dr. May, you've gotten to the general store and you've gone inside to get care. They're going to have kerosene in the general store and stuff like that. You don't notice the chaos that's beginning outside, but I'd like you each to do spot hidden rolls.
So while doing that, I'm the same.
All four.
Oh no. Ooh, 12.
Nice. We'll give it to the 04.
Fine.
As you are standing there are, of course, brand new newspapers that are being sold, but there's also a stack of the past few days. And you notice something on I think it's the Worcester News. That's where the newest news would come from. There is a picture of somebody on the front, and they have something that reminds you a great deal of that canister that you have in the car.
Meteor-like rocket startles Worcester. Clark professor's test of new propellant to explore air strata brings police to scene. Worcester, Massachusetts, April 2nd, 1926. A rocket designed by Professor Robert H. Goddard of Clark University in his experiments to explore the upper air strata was sent through the air in an isolated part of Worcester this afternoon like a flaming meteor, with a roar heard for 2 miles around. The noise was such that the residents called police headquarters, saying that an airplane was shooting along on fire. 2 police ambulances scoured the area looking for victims, and an airplane left Grafton Airport to aid the search. It was later learned of the experimental launch, and the public has since been warned of possible future tests in the coming weeks. The experiments marked the climax of 17 years' work by Professor Goddard to design a projectile that can penetrate the upper air regions. Professor Goddard has the financial backing of the Smithsonian Institution as well as Clark University.
And the picture that canister looks like the bottom part, like the fuel canister
For this rocket.
in the picture for the rocket.
Whoa, what if that rocket hit something.
Something you say. Something not of this earth.
Yeah.
Now, my dear Elsner, this next question is very important. You do have samples in your bag of the
Right.
purple sap. The world has to know that this is happening.
I think you're right. This is the one time I'm agreeing with you, Dr. May.
For the greater good, yes?
For the greater good. Let's leave.
For the greater good.
And you hear the sound of hard leather-bottomed shoes running along the sidewalk, and the door suddenly comes blasting in as Lucas, Dr. Lucas, comes breathless into the general store because he saw the car parked right outside. And he seems white as a sheet and freaking out.
Cannibals eating fire tree squid
McLight tree, leave.
tentacle leave.
Leave.
All right, so we're gonna get back into the car. Are the people chasing him, or is it still?
No, there's nobody chasing him at this point.
So, dear colleagues, who's good at driving?
We're still in the school. You're gonna have to pick us up.
So, my
I
two
didn't
dear
hear that
colleagues,
over the sound of
who's
my
good at
cowardice.
driving?
I mean, we could. How brave am I feeling?
My driving is
Yeah.
base.
Okay,
I'm very good at driving.
You know what? We'll make it nice and easy. We'll drive by the tree,
We'll honk.
throw fire at it,
Yeah.
and then leave.
Absolutely. And the doors might be open. If our colleagues decide to get in, we cannot help it.
We'll honk for them.
Fair enough.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to get in the car, whip a
Right.
Yui, and then
We
get ready
could-
to drive back.
I'm making Molotovs
We
in
could
the
soak
car.
the newspapers in the accelerant and
Okay.
then throw and ignite.
As you get out of the store and going to get in the car, and as you are in the classroom looking out the window, the three people have seemed to all gotten up. They are acting feral, violent. You see them dragging the body of the sheriff away from the tree and towards the town. You also see a couple of them run away, and if there are any bystanders, and I'm sure this time of day there are people bystanders, the bystanders become alarmed. The cannibals, as you'd call them, just run up violently and attack anyone that moves and start biting them. There's screams. And after a few moments, the person who was attacked sort of stands up with glassy eyes and starts wandering about and moving. A few of them have tried to climb back up the tree to get whatever it is. And you see this ahead of you. And we'll do the classroom first. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Lee, I say we either destroy this or leave it and run. We're in danger here.
You're welcome to find a good way to destroy this. I'm fucking working on it. So I think she will say to hell with this and try and grab a Bunsen burner, do the little light it thing, and just hold a flame onto the tentacle. Just caution abandoned, see what happens to it.
It's the equivalent of trying to burn a piece of wet meat. You might sort of be cooking it a little bit. It might start to vaguely appear as you're doing that, but it's not igniting or lighting on fire.
So it's just this sort of wet sizzle, but like there may be a little charring that we can see on the surface.
Right. You could probably burn it with a big fire, but it would have to be a big fire. Dr. Astor, you're looking out the window?
Yeah, I've been.
you suddenly notice that one of these people, not one of the originals, but somebody else, they seem to be wandering somewhere between the tree and your classroom, and they're smelling the air.
Dr. Lee, I think they're looking for it.
As you're saying that, you notice the person suddenly start to focus in on where the classroom is and start to wander in your direction.
Either leave it, but we have to go. They're coming for it.
Yeah, we're going now. I'm going to bundle it back up in the blanket burrito and essentially try and bar the door. One idea that I may have, if the whole town is contaminated and potentially wandering cannibals, what if we left the gas on in this room and try and lead them in here and run out the other side and then throw in a match or something to blow it?
That works. I go straight to the Bunsen burners and start flicking all of them on, but without the spark.
There's
What-
only
what?
one door in and out of this classroom.
Oh, I
Damn
thought
it.
so. It's just more of a shed kind of tucked in the back.
Well, it's a classroom, but the classrooms all have doors opening to the
It's
outside.
all exterior. Okay.
Is there a
Scratch that.
window aside from the one I'm looking through?
No, it's the door and the window, and then the side walls are solid, and they've got stuff, tacked to them, and then there's a chalkboard on this side. where the
Frankly, this may
teachers-
be the safest place to be for a minute. I want to make sure that we lock the door while we try and
Okay.
plan.
You
and
definitely
then-
can lock the door from the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are also fairly large curtains too that you can pull.
And
Let's
yeah,
see.
you lock the doors. I'm closing the curtains.
So the other three, you guys are in the car, and you notice that chaos is beginning to break out.
Gentlemen, the good of the many must outweigh the good of the few.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're going to get diminishing returns sticking around here. Let's all agree to never speak of this. And as far as we knew, we came with 3 people and 3 people only. And let's plant our foot and get the hell out of here.
The university
ladies
knows you
wandered
has
off.
5.
You know,
The
the
ladies wander off on their
university
own.
look, some hard decisions had to be made today, but at the end of it, 3 people surviving is better than 0 people surviving.
We're scientists, not action heroes.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
We could tell them that, the gentlemen and the ladies had to separate because alas, we had no chemistry. And then I whip a Yui and try with that bad pun.
the 3 of you can do an idea roll, though.
Okay.
Does that? Yes, that does fly.
I passed. Yeah.
I got 11, so whatever it is, I think I passed it.
Go past. You are in a car that's built like a tank.
Hmm.
Oh, is it built like a tank?
I mean, it's a big freaking sedan. It's the kind of thing where if you hit somebody, they'll just.
Well, we already made the
Uh-huh.
Molotovs. We might as well throw them at this tree.
Who am I to
Would be a
deny,
waste, wouldn't it?
deny an arson? So we're gonna try
and then
back.
and honk the horn when we're near
And
the.
you
classroom.
actually might be able to bulldoze your way through the crowd with
Right,
this
like-
car to get to us.
And I can drive. I'm.
Well, you got one
driving.
chance.
I'm going to be in the nicest possible way. You coming along is completely secondary to my mind at the minute.
All right, so we'll drive along, and when we get near it, we're gonna honk, fire, whatever. But
Okay. You
I could do a drive roll.
can do a drive roll.
Right. And my goal is to run over as many people as I can without slowing down too much.
Okay.
For the greater good.
Yes. I'm gonna
For
spend
science.
5 luck, and I get a heart on my drive auto.
Okay. You got a hard on your drive.
Yes, a heart on to the wood. Yes.
Well,
and-
at least it's not roadhead. That would be worse.
All right. And you said you were going to hit as many people as you can. You, in fact, hit quite a few people, and they go flying when you hit them. You hit them some of them are extremely hard, and you roll over a couple of them. The rest of you in the car do a spot hidden.
47
That's
out
a
of
hard success.
55
Okay.
regular.
What you guys notice is that despite the fact being hit by a car and run over, they're trying. I mean, some of them have broken bones now, but they're trying to get back up, and they seem to be dragging themselves all towards the center of the town. It starts to look like they're going towards a central spot in the town, just in the middle of the road. Some of the people had seemed like they were already heading that direction, like they're heading towards the same spot right in the middle of town. Some of them are moving towards the classroom, but you smash into them. You think something might be wrong with the engine, because the car engine is making this high-pitched whining sort of sound. But you honk the horn. Patricia and Dr. Lee, you're in the classroom, and you can see this carnage going on. But you also hear this high-pitched sort of whining. It was very faint for a few moments, but it's gotten louder and louder, and you think that it might be the car, but it doesn't quite sound like a car noise.
What is that?
You
I'm
see,
gonna yell, "You've got one chance!"
Honk, honk.
Yeah, so that's Lee says, not our problem. She is going to take the tentacle burrito over one arm and hoping that the car works as a distraction, open and bolt out the door and into our car and start
Yep.
driving away as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
You still have the canister in the car, right?
Yeah, I've grabbed the canister, but I'm just like, I'm like, what? I'm like, if as long as you have that, they're gonna follow us. Get rid of it.
And see how fast they can run. This is the find of a century. I'm not letting this go.
all right. So you have only a little bit of a run to get to the car. You're bringing the wrapped up tentacle with you.
I'm telling her ditch it, but she's not listening to me.
She's not listening. She's got it. There's something that all of you begin to notice. This high-pitched whistle. It's not coming from the car. And there's a strange sort of effect. You're almost at the point where the sun is starting to go down. Out in the field, behind the tree, it seems to be getting brighter, as if the air itself was shimmering. As you're running to the car, and by the way, none of these, there are still the zombie-like cannibal people, but they're all moving towards the middle of the town now. Some of them seem to be dragging things that are not there towards the center of the town. You now definitely notice it's almost as if there is a spotlight sort of appearing in the air out in the field. You get into the car and
I basically scream at Lee. If we want to live, you've got to get rid of that.
And the car we're leaving.
I think Lee's already tossed it into the back seat or the rumble seat.
We can check it out the window if they follow us. Let's go.
There is this light and this sound, this screechy sort of sound coming from the field, and all of a sudden there is a kind of gwump, like a bit of a thunderclap where the air suddenly comes rushing into a void. And when it does, there is this gigantic lump of thing in the field. Biologist, microbiologist especially, it looks like a gigantic amoeba. It's shapeless, formless. It seems to have things in it. Entomologist, it seems to have rudimentary spidery-like legs. And then you notice that it's covered in eyes all over it. It shimmers kind of rainbow-like. It's got black skin, but it's like it's got an oil slick all over the side of it. And suddenly this thing starts barreling towards the tree and towards you. It's going to get to the tree before it gets to you. What do you do?
5.
Driving away.
Drive, and I swear to God, I grab that tentacle against her objections and throw it, because I have a very bad feeling that's what it wants.
Do a strength
You owe me
roll,
tenure.
because it's heavy.
You know what? I've got the luck. I'm burning it. Success.
You more or less roll it out of the back of the car so that it hits the ground. This amoeba-like creature gets to the tree and in a matter of seconds completely envelops the tree. And for a moment you can see the tree inside of it, and then it becomes wispy and it disintegrates inside the tree.
I narrow my eyes at everyone as we're driving away.
As you are driving away and you're looking back, you see the thing immediately head towards the classroom. It hits the side of the building and smashes the building in as if it were made out of toothpicks. It rummages around and then starts moving back onto the road. You now notice that there are some people who were infected, and they're now standing still in the middle of the road with their hands like this. And the creature rolls up to them without even kind of noticing. It rolls into them. You see their bodies absorbed suddenly into the stuff and disintegrate. Up ahead of you, there is a whole pile of townspeople that are now conglomerated in the center of town, and they're all with their hands up like this as you swerve around them, you drive past, and this thing comes boiling up and rolls over them and absorbs them all. It starts moving back and forth in the town as you're pulling away, hitting anything. It hits the general store, it smashes it. There's carnage, and you don't see any people running because they all seem to be mesmerized or whatever as you go away. You roll on down the road, and you know from the vibrations that this thing is going down the road behind you, but you're moving much faster than it is. You're heading in the direction of the farm where the cows were infected. And before driving completely out of sight, you see the thing moving onto the farm and wiping out everything on the farm. One question. Is there any sample of any of this stuff anywhere in the car or on your person?
I left all of my samples in the lab.
The ants were in the lab. Patricia got rid of the tentacle. We have the canister in the car.
But I don't think that's
The
Sure,
canisters
but I
are
what it
don't.
wants.
Yeah, I don't think I have any pink goo.
No, I don't either.
As
Me
long
neither.
as you don't have any bit of the stuff, the thing turns and goes back to get whatever's left, and you guys leave the town. Somewhat later, people find out there was some sort of a disaster that happened in Rutland, many of the buildings were completely smashed, and all of the people seem to have vanished off the face of the planet. And the tree is no longer there. That's the end of my story.
As we drive away, I lean over and ask Dr. Astor, so we had a great brunch today, right? We are on vacation, right? It was a wonderful brunch and we never went anywhere.
Correct. In fact, we will be telling. We'll tell Doctor. We'll be telling Homer when we get back. It was like that when we got there.
Like
Who would
wiped off the
argue
map.
with you? There's nobody left to argue with you. All right. So, what was going on?
Shoggoth?
I believe Alex nailed it. There was an elder thing, and they had established a colony underground not too far away, and they were currently observing the humans. They can fly, so it was flying above the town, and it had camouflage on. It was invisible to the human eye. At the same time, good old Dr. Goddard had been testing one of his rockets, and the rocket collided with the elder thing and killed it and knocked it out of the sky. Where it fell, the elder things are extremely intelligent, and they know that there's always the possibility of an accident. And so it had built into its sort of pheromones that once it caused chemical reactions to the environment around it, which was the purple goop. Any life form, whether it was insect or human or cow or whatever, that encountered any bits of it would seek to consume it and then go to a central location, because the elder things, when they realized what had happened, they would send a Shoggoth to clean up the mess. And so the people had been gathering all the stuff and taking it to the center of town, including the ants.
So were the people actually wiping more goo on the tree?
No, they were just kind of they were trying to seek out where this thing was, and they were drawn to the tree because it was up, most of it was up in the tree, and they didn't know what they were doing. It was taking over the guys wandering around the field. They didn't know. If you would have talked to them, they could have talked to you, but they would have really not understood why they were doing what they were doing, because it was all pheromones that were overriding their nervous system.
Okay, so basically, when this thing, after it died and fell out of the sky, it landed in the tree.
It landed in the tree. When it got hit, obviously it got hit high up. So
Right.
Bits of it landed in that field. Most of it landed in the tree. The canister was in the field. The cows found it and started immediately consuming it. They consumed it until they burst, literally. And that's basically it. Once everything was gathered, at least into a central point, well, at a certain point, it didn't even matter if it was all gathered. They would teleport a Shoggoth in and send it to collect all of the samples. So it could tell exactly where the bits and pieces were. And
Okay.
anybody that did it, including the ants underground, it would have just dug that up and absorbed the ants and the classroom and everything else.
So that was a
And-
really ugly Shoggoth.
Yeah.
And
And the reason why I changed the name of the scenario is because the scenario is called The Lurker in the Sky, which gives away the whole damn story.
Yeah, might as well call it the carcass in the tree, right?
right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me go ahead and finish up. Our players included Alex Sun, Riley Kruger, Jen Obertaz, Lex Hurley, and Bill Chung, with yours truly as the Keeper of the Secrets. We have a Discord server where you can chat with our other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answer any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.